Gracie Jiu-Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 32 of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. So today will be part one of a two-part or two-episode focus on the older Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. And originally I thought I was mainly going to be looking at Jiu-Jitsu practitioners over 50 when they started. And I got a lot of response from instructors about some of the students they had that were well into their 60s and even 70s when they started jiu-jitsu. So I thought that was super, super cool to learn that quite a few people are actually starting much later in life. And I just really think that's very inspirational, motivational to be able to talk to a lot of these practitioners and hear just a real quick glimpse into their life and their jiu-jitsu journey. So I'm very happy that I was able to do that. I myself am getting older, 51 presently. I certainly don't feel it mentally, but it is a reality for me that I experience every day that my body certainly feels the effects of being older. I certainly can't go with the intensity that I used to in any physical endeavor, jiu-jitsu, or any kind of workout. And the recuperation aspect is where I probably feel it the most. So it's kind of it's a process for sure with the whole coming to grips with this and knowing that you have to make changes in the way you approach things. You have to be much smarter. I personally have to warm up a great deal more before doing any physical activity, and I need to cool down. I can't go just 0 to 80. And in rolling, I need to actually have a little more recoup time in between rolls. It's very hard for me just to go from one roll into the next one and that kind of thing. So all those things are considerations, but I also take pride in the fact that I'm still doing very well. When I look at a lot of my peers who don't do jiu-jitsu and are the same age as me, a lot of them are falling apart. I look at people I went to high school with on Facebook. I feel pretty good. Anyway, in this episode, you'll hear from a couple of people that are very in tune to the older population in jiu-jitsu. And then you'll hear from a handful of older practitioners who started well into their years and are doing very well. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, let's start with Guido Jennings, and then we'll speak with Ed Solis of Old Man Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm speaking with Guido Jennings. So welcome, Guido.
Hi, Marty. How are you? I'm good, sir. And Guido is Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt and an instructor at the Gracie Academy at Torrance, California. He was also featured on episode 14 of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast. So if you haven't heard that, please make sure you go back and check it out. It's a great, great interview. And Guido recently started a show called GJJ Over 50, and you can see it on YouTube. So Guido, tell us a little bit about the show and what, in your opinion, are some of the unique needs for the older jiu-jitsu practitioner.
Yeah, I just recently turned 50, so I thought it would be kind of interesting for me to share my jiu-jitsu career over 50 and how I practice jiu-jitsu these days versus 15, 20 years ago when I first started. And my really objective is to everybody who listens to or watches the video, to make them last longer in the sport. And I think with the proper application, anybody can last in the sport as long as the Grandmaster did, to 95. And I had the pleasure to roll with him when he was 87. And it was amazing to feel an 87-year-old man roll on the mat and, not really having any issues with his age. So that was an amazing experience. And basically, my videos talk about, how to drill, how to practice jiu-jitsu. And I just started it, so I'm only at episode 4. So there will be more episodes to come where I'm going to talk about general health, how to prepare for jiu-jitsu, and just basically how to keep yourself fit.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I've enjoyed the episodes that you've done so far, so look forward to others. And thinking about someone who is either getting older and has been doing jiu-jitsu or who's further along in life and has decided to start jiu-jitsu, what comes to mind as some of the things they need to keep in mind as they either start or continue that journey into later years?
Yeah, so for example, for myself, obviously being 50 years old now, and I still consider myself being in really good shape, but there are definitely certain restrictions, my body allows me or not allows me to do anymore. And we certainly have to come to grips with that a 50-year-old body doesn't move as well anymore as a 20-year-old body. So there's definitely certain things you should avoid. There's certain positions you should avoid to protect your body from injuries. And in general, I would say whether you've been practicing jiu-jitsu for 3 years, 10 years, or 15 years, I think it's just really being completely relaxed on the mat and not necessarily fight everything you're going to get thrown against. I mean, sometimes it's better just to go with the flow. And then the biggest issue I see was the students who start at a later age, that they're very tense, and typically a tense body tends to get injured quicker and faster than a more relaxed body. Obviously, when the muscles are tense and tight, and you fall, you make a break fall, or you get thrown, the muscle just tends to pull a little quicker as if it's a relaxed muscle. So, the biggest issue, I think, with old and new practitioners in jiu-jitsu at an older age is just really, stay completely relaxed.
That's good. Good advice. Okay, well, I appreciate you sharing your insight and time with us, Guido. For those who are interested in checking out your show, if they haven't already, where can they find that show?
Yeah, that's great. And for the ones who don't know, I will be in Europe between July 16th and August 16th, and there'll be several seminars coming up in England and Germany. So if you are a European listener, I'd love to see you at one of my seminars, and you can email me at gjlovestoteachgjj@gmail.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, and continued long life and great health, brother.
Jiu-Jitsu for life. Thanks, Marty.
So I'm talking with Ed Solis of Old Man Jiu-Jitsu. So welcome, Ed.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on, Marty.
Well, my pleasure, my pleasure. So I love the name of your company, Old Man Jiu-Jitsu. It's really great. And yeah, the first time I saw it, I was like, this is great. That guy's got to be a really cool guy.
Yeah.
So since you have that focus and you're in tune to the older Jiu-Jitsu population, I'd love for you just to share with us your perspective on the unique needs for the older Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, Ed.
Yeah, well, again, thanks for having me on, Marty. I was 41 when I started Jiu-Jitsu, and
Nice.
right off the bat, I realized, it's a different population of us older guys and gals out there, on the mat with the younger folks and all the energy and stamina they have, and you kind of start to group together. You start to find the old guy or the old girl you can kind of partner up with, so you can kind of protect yourselves a little bit. And it's one of those things that it's an amazing art, it's an amazing sport, it's an amazing community. But when you're 41 years old and you got a full-time job and kids and wife or husband at home, you don't have the time, first of all, to commit like some of the other younger folks do, and definitely not the physical attributes. My knees don't bend the way they used to, and my neck's not as robust as it used to be. So there are definitely some unique aspects to being an older person training jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely, and I can certainly relate. I'm 51 as well. We'll be 52 this year in a few months, so I can certainly attest to your body not being the same as it was, and you got to go slower. And do you feel like now obviously there's changes in physiology and the body as we age. What about from the mental aspect? Do you feel like anything has to go on mentally to be able to practice well into your later years?
I actually think that's where older people have the advantage. I think because of our maturity and our ability to assess. I mean, I think you may have heard it, heard the comparisons, and I believe they're true. Jiu-jitsu is like human chess. It's really about, it's almost like your life, the struggle in life. And as you get older, you realize there's battles that you should fight, and there's some you shouldn't. There's limits. Your limits. And so I think the older jiu-jitsu practitioner in my opinion, has a better mental game, because your body better than most. You know when to stop. You know when to push it. You know where your limit's at. You also know when to wait to counterattack. You also know when to conserve your energy. And I find that when I roll with younger folks that have a lot more energy but are a little more out for the kill, I find that my mental game serves me well, because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and you can go 5, 10, 15 minutes without a submission and pull it out at the end, because you're mentally a little bit more prepared, and you have a little bit more in the mental game than younger folks do. And I'm not saying that goes across the board, but just for older folks, I think they have a really good mental game in general.
Yeah, I agree, and that's good to hear, because so many times someone that's getting older, it can be a little disheartening knowing that you're slowing down physically. But
Right.
As long as you keep in mind that, hey, you know what, this could be your best time ever, as far as that mental seasoning, so to speak, and that time that you can have better focus, have more patience, and really look for your opportunities and play that waiting game and come out in a good position.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, anything you want to share about someone who's been doing jiu-jitsu and getting older, or someone who's already a little older and starting out in jiu-jitsu? Anything that they need to keep in mind?
Absolutely. I encourage a lot of my friends and family members who are a little older or my age, even a lot of people I went to college with. It is definitely intimidating, to say the least. I did a lot of research. I looked at a lot of schools, And it was a while. I put it off for a while because I was intimidated. I wrestled in high school and college, and jiu-jitsu is a different ball of wax altogether. But I would encourage anybody who's, in their late 30s, early 40s, 50s even, just get out there, do a little research. There's so many great schools out there nowadays that you can find a school that'll fit your needs, and just jump in on it. Just take the plunge and give it a shot, and knowing that you're going to be tired, knowing that you're going to have pains. I hate to say it, I threw up almost every day that I went for the first 2 weeks because I was so physically out of shape. But it does give you a fresh perspective on life. It exposes you to so many amazing people who have love for the sport. And so I would just encourage anybody out there who's thinking about it just to go ahead and do it and get it rolling. And knowing that you're going to have some pains and some aches along the ways, I think the benefits of jiu-jitsu far outweigh the risk of injury and the feeling of just feeling completely out of shape when you first get in there. So that would be my word of advice to anybody out there who's thinking about it.
Fantastic. So just do it and persevere and stay on the path.
That's it.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for your insight. Very helpful, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to benefit greatly from it. I appreciate your time and everything you've added.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, great stuff from Guido Jennings from GJJ Over 50 and Ed Solis of Old Man Jiu-Jitsu. And by the way, Ed Solis has been generous enough to donate an Old Man Jiu-Jitsu item, product, and I'll be talking more about that towards the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. Okay, time to hear from some of the older jiu-jitsu practitioners from around the country and hear what they have to say about starting and doing jiu-jitsu a little later in life.
Okay, I'm speaking with George Ziliaks, and George, welcome.
Well, thank you, Marty. It's terrific to have this opportunity.
Wonderful. I'm glad you're a part of it. So let's just start off. Tell us how old you are and where you train and how long you've been training, George.
Marty, 5 days before my 70th birthday, somebody invited me to the Brazilian Muay Thai Academy here in Sudbury and said, George, why don't you come out and try it? And he said, there's lots of guys that are your age. Well, long story short, I did go out and learned, trap and roll the first night, was so impressed, and turned out that there weren't a lot of men my age, but because I'm the oldest. And so I just recently turned 71.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, my hat's off. Lots of respect for anyone who starts a little later in life, so great job. So what inspired you to start training? I know you shared that they kind of got you in the door by any means possible. So what has kept you there?
Well, that's a great question. 35 years ago, I did take some go-to-roo when I was living in Southern Ontario, and but found, I talk to people and say, encourage them to seriously look at Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, because I believe it's the best martial art that a person can get involved in, regardless of the age. And it turned out that my family out west, my daughter and son-in-law, their 2 children live in Vancouver, and he'd been doing some business with the Gracies, and the kids had gone to Torrance and taken bully-proofing, and my daughter had taken a private from Henry's wife, Eve, and so I thought, well, maybe I should pay attention to, what he's doing and a little bit more, beginning to understand, what it was all about. So that
Right.
kind of had a sort of an incentive to become more learned about the Gracie style. And subsequently, it's been a terrific opportunity.
Great. And you're training in Sudbury, Ontario, with Steve Jonkus?
That's correct. Yes. And they made you feel so comfortable, like it was he was somewhat, protective. He wouldn't let me be the bad guy right away. He wanted to make sure that I was that I wasn't going to have any injuries. And honestly, I haven't. I think I may have rolled on my fist or something once across a rib, and that was it. But
wow.
Yeah, so I haven't had. I've been fortunate. I hadn't been a super athlete during growing up. I was an insurance executive, Marty, and so I didn't. I was in a sedentary kind of job occupation, but fitness and health was always a hobby, and my wife was always oriented towards eating well and nutrition, and so we raised 3 children, and we didn't have pop, we didn't have junk cereals. We raised the kids on oatmeal and cream of wheat and cooked cereals and good wholesome foods. And so the lifestyle of becoming and staying fit was something that was a hobby of mine all my life. And so I had been working out and felt that I was relatively fit. And
right.
So the transition to taking jiu-jitsu wasn't that difficult in the sense of
oh, good.
Yeah.
So what would you say has been the best part of training in jiu-jitsu? And on the flip side, what's been the most challenging, if anything, about jiu-jitsu?
Well, I think the best part is learning something that gives you a self-confidence that as Huron said once about, a giant can walk by and you can kind of look and say, gee, I hope he doesn't look at me, wrongly, or maybe I might have to, have a situation where I didn't know what to do.
Right.
Whereas now, John can walk by and it's interesting, interesting guy. And,
absolutely.
And so it does prepare you, gives you a peace, I think, and a self-confidence about, we travel and, if the situation came, you feel more confident knowing that you would be able to at least defend yourself in a most effective way and defend the loved ones around you. But at the same time, you're getting a sport. I had a bit of a knee problem, and I found that seemed to cure when I was, getting up and down off the mat the correct way. And,
wow.
So that, my health in that sense actually, improved. And so I won't need. It wasn't serious, but it was, I was limping, and occasionally would be a problem, but I haven't found that at all. It's been really good since I started. So
So an unexpected benefit.
Unexpected benefit was the health aspect of and plus the knowledge benefit. So
what challenges have you had related?
Well, I think that one of the things is that you're the oldest guy there, and you sometimes feel a little self-conscious and thinking, well, maybe the younger man wants to roll with somebody who's maybe younger and can do a little bit more, something more effectively learning the lesson. But they treated me so well, and you feel so at home that and I think that the history of Helio and Carlos, and the fact that they did train into particularly training so late in life, and so you feel that they do respect the fact that people of age can still participate. The programs are designed to not be injurious but beneficial, and yet you're learning the same thing that younger people are learning. So I've rolled with people that are 16, 18, 25, 35, 40, people that are much younger, but still I think that we can benefit and learn from each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So anyone that you want to give a shout out to, I know you mentioned your sons, so tell us their names, and then anybody else you want to just shout out to before we close, sir.
Well, the fact that my sons, 2 sons, one in Vancouver and one in Stephen in Vancouver with his wife and my other son, Chris, in Seattle. And my daughter, though, is married to Jesse Katz. Jesse's the president and developer of Roots of Fight. And
nice.
I wear a lot of Gracie, and a lot of jiu-jitsu T-shirts. I mean, I'm getting this on a regular basis. So I wear it with pride, and I wear the Gracie, I wear Gracie, store and design clothing wear as well.
Yeah.
But
so you're hooked up. It sounds like
we're hooked up a little bit, and so there's a little bit of a connection there with with what the Gracies have chosen Jesse to do, and that's preserve the history and the development of jiu-jitsu over the years by going back and doing historical kind of designs, both not only in jiu-jitsu but the other sports as well. So there's that kind of connection that's maybe a little unique, Marty, but so I think it's that family interest that or involvement that's kind of sparked the reason that I wanted to study as well and learn more about what my family is experiencing because they're training as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for taking time to share with us a little bit about you and your life. And again, hats off to you embracing jiu-jitsu a little further along in your life and going well with it. So, thanks for being an inspiration and.
Well, certainly inspiring with people like with Steve Jonkos and his wife. They make you feel very comfortable. They're doing a great job, and they're so family-oriented and get great feedback from the family programs and so on. And the fellows, it just becomes one big family, which I understand is not unique because I see that exemplified through other examples of other academies under the Gracie style. So I can't speak highly enough about that, Marty. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your
call. Thank you, and long health and long life, sir.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay, up next is David Gordon. So welcome, David.
Hey, Marty. How you doing?
I'm doing well, but thank you, sir. So let's start with how old you are and where you train and how long you've been training, David.
I am 67 years old. I train out of Destin, Florida, Destin Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and I started training a year ago this month in June of 2014. So I've been training for 1 year now.
Fantastic. And your rank?
I'm a blue belt. I just got awarded a blue belt just a couple of weeks ago.
Wow, congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you're with Carlos Diaz?
And I train under Carlos Diaz, yes, sir.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal instructor.
Fantastic mentor and a great instructor.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know Carlos, and I think very highly of him as well. So, David, what inspired you to start training at this stage in your life?
Well, both my two oldest sons started training at an early age, early on, right when the first UFC fights came out, and Hoist Gracie was the champion, and they got interested in that. They told me about it then. They started training before it really became popular. Did a few tournaments, and stuck with it for a number of years, and then they ended up finishing school, getting married, and having some children, and had just gone back to training again. My two oldest sons are both 37 years old and 33 years old, and they both have blue belts. They live in Memphis, Tennessee. And so that kind of inspired me to, I've always been interested in it, but I was just kind of busy. I'd moved the last few years, and just now was able to, find a place down here and start devoting some serious time to it. And I've always wanted to kind of do that so we could kind of do that together with my kids, when they come down.
Absolutely. Very nice. Very nice that they got you started or interested in it. So what has been the best part of training jiu-jitsu for you?
For me, it's learning something new. It's the interesting challenge has been not only the physical aspect, and that hasn't been that hard for me because I train on the days I don't do jiu-jitsu in the gym, so I've been able to keep myself in pretty good shape that allows me to participate in the sport. But it's also been kind of the mental aspect aspect of it. You know, the combination of the physical and mental part of it, just being able to, you know, kind of use those skills, but the thinking that goes into the sport, you know, is just, I didn't realize, you know, the mindset you have to have, and you know, and really just putting a lot of work, you know, mentally and physically into it. You know, that's probably I really like that a lot, and I guess the other great part is just I've met some incredible people and made some unbelievable friends, you know, better than any other friends, and closer than any other friends I've made since I've moved to Florida.
That's fantastic, fantastic. And Jiu-Jitsu certainly will do that for you. I'm glad you've had that experience, David. So on the flip side, what's been the most challenging part about doing Jiu-Jitsu for you?
Probably the mental part too.
Okay, yeah.
You know, being 67, you know, it's kind of put me in a different mental mode, you know, and just developing the reflex development part of it, I would say.
Sure.
You know, kind of just staying in that mode and relaxing and kind of letting it come naturally. But I found that you know, and it's probably true, even with long-term practitioners, my mind's always kind of thinking and working, and just understanding that part of it, and kind of being able to utilize what you've learned so far, but at the same time realizing, you know, it's a long-term journey. You know, I've enjoyed every bit of it, and it's just it's just been a great experience.
Fantastic. Well, anyone that you would like to give a shout out to?
Well, of course, Carlos Diaz. You know, he's our black belt instructor here, and he's just been a fantastic person to work with, to train under. I've done recently a number of private lessons with him, just working up to the blue belt. You know, he's not only a great trainer and a great jiu-jitsu, you know, practitioner, but he's kind of a life teacher too. And that's kind of what I like about it. I just learned so much from him on both sides of that coin. Absolutely.
And what are your sons' names?
My oldest son, his name is Davis, Davis, and the next oldest son is Garrett, Garret, Davis Gordon, right. And Garrett Gordon. Yes, sir.
Shout out to the Gordon brothers.
And
all right, sir. Well,
I have a grandson training too now. Davis's oldest son is 6 years old, and so he's going to training with his dad now. So we got 3 generations.
Very nice, very nice. That's really, really cool. Really cool.
That's awesome.
Well, David, thank you so much for letting us get to know you a little better, and share a little bit of your life with us. I wish you long life and continued great health and happiness, my friend. And I have a lot of respect for you starting later and doing what you do. So thanks.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay, I'm speaking with Kurt McKessick of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And Kurt, welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
All right. So let's just share with us your age, Kurt, and where you train and how long you've been training, sir.
I'm 61 years old. I train at Chapel Hill Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and I started in December of 2014.
Fantastic. So you're there with Mozzie and Tim in Chapel Hill.
That's correct. Good crew.
Great. Excellent. Great crew. Shout out to them. All right. So I want to ask you what inspired you to start training at a later stage in your life, and how it's been for you so far.
Well, a couple of things. One, I wrestled in high school and about a semester in college, and so I was somewhat familiar with grappling, and then just got interested in watching mixed martial arts, UFC, that sort of thing, and just liked the aspect of the jiu-jitsu end of mixed martial arts, so I thought I'd check it out. And it's been really good. I went in there expecting that I would take some knocks, and I have, but they're good ones. The folks there, everyone there is there. Everybody's helpful. There's not any great big egos, and it's just been a wonderful learning experience. I've got a whole lot to learn, but it's wonderful.
Well, I think it's really important that you found somewhere that you really feel comfortable and that people have your best interest at heart and support your growth. So what would you say has been the best part of training jiu-jitsu so far?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, the people there are good. Everybody's really nice, and it's a kind of a family team atmosphere. Number one, and Mozzie is kind of tends to put things together in a logical sequence, and it makes sense. He's kind of building and stringing things together. So. Right.
And Mozzie, by the way, was featured in episode 3 of this show. So if anybody has not heard that, I encourage you to listen to that. It's a great interview with him. He's an awesome instructor, and I've done several privates with him, so can't say enough about his teaching and leadership. So on the flip side of what's been the best about training, what's been the biggest challenge for you starting jiu-jitsu at this point?
Well, as a wrestler, I'm not used to being on my back, so that's something to get comfortable with. And even though I try and work off my back, it seems like I end up in top position with people that I'm even with. I certainly am not in top position with upper belts, but so
it's kind of an ingrained instinct as a wrestler that if you can, you try to get that top position whenever possible.
Yeah, and my belly needs to be toward the mat. My back doesn't go to the mat.
Yeah, that is a challenge to overcome for sure. So, anybody that you want to shout out to before we close?
Well, Mozzie, number one, Tim, and really everybody there that I work with. I go largely to the morning sessions, and there's usually pretty much the same faces every day. So all those guys are great, and ladies.
Well, I really want to thank you for your time and letting us get to know you better. And hats off to you, Kurt. Much respect for anybody that does jiu-jitsu, but especially for those of us that start a little later in life and are on that jiu-jitsu path. So much respect to you, and hope you have a long, healthy life ahead of you.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm speaking now with Jerry Thrower. And Jerry, welcome. And if you would, just tell us your age and how long you've been training, Jerry.
My age is 75. I started training with Ty Gay at Redline Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Edmond, Oklahoma. And I started training about a month before my 74th birthday.
Okay.
I had my birthday along with my brothers and sisters on the mat.
Wonderful.
In November of a year and a half ago. I guess it's been 2 years. I'm 75 now. Being retired, I came twice a day for 5 days every week until I maxed out my requirements on my 4th degree of white belt, and I have ultimately advanced to my blue belt in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, congratulations. Sounds like you're really, really dedicated.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And everybody that I know, you either like it or you or you don't come back, because it's not the easiest thing in the world. I was a collegiate style wrestler in high school and coached for 9 years, and all the potentially dangerous holes in the collegiate style of wrestling are what that's our bread and butter. So
right.
I love it.
It takes some getting used to, right?
Yeah.
So what inspired you to get going later on in your life?
Well, 2 years ago I couldn't even have spelled jiu-jitsu. I didn't know a thing about it. And I had friends that had been in taekwondo and different disciplines. But and I had a short stint in one of the other disciplines. But I just happened to run into Ty Gay and his fiancée while shopping at the grocery store. And I could tell by the way he carried himself that he was an athlete of some kind. And having never met a stranger, I went up to him and I said, I bet you've been a wrestler in high school. And he said, no, not really. He said, I'm a black belt instructor in jiu-jitsu. And I said, well, have you got a card? He said, yeah. And he gave me a card, and I said, I'd like to come visit your gym and just look at your situation. And it's been a really rewarding time.
That's great. What an awesome story. And shout out to Jennifer Gray, who is Ty's girlfriend you just spoke of. So I'm glad you had that chance encounter with them.
You bet.
So let me ask you,
I think it was a little divine intervention.
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything left to chance.
I bet you're right.
Yeah,
for sure. But let me ask you, in your training so far, what's been the best part about it?
Well, of course, it's geared. Everything in the curriculum is geared toward street defense, and that's been very beneficial. I think it's been beneficial for everybody, men and women, and also the bully-proof division for the little kids that might have a tendency to get bullied at school. They go through the same training that we do, but it's just it's a good workout. Plus, it's both physically and mentally draining. Good for the body and soul.
Absolutely. Good for the body, mind, and spirit, and the soul.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest challenge related to your training?
Well, actually being 75, and I don't move as fast as I used to, but this is geared toward technique rather than strength. I was a state champion high school pole vaulter.
Wow.
All mid-state football player, and I wrestled, for 4 years from junior high on up. But I just don't move like I used to, and not only strength-wise, but stamina. I had trouble with a couple of issues with my back from stiff pole vaulting in high school. Because every time I'd plant, it would stretch my back, and I ended up with two bulging discs, which put pressure on my right thigh from L2-3, and had to have a laminectomy about 6 weeks ago. It was not from jiu-jitsu, but it was from an old injury from high school. But that's taken its toll somewhat. So I've been going in on a limited basis just to mentor some of the white belts coming up and tighten up their moves and give them what I can do to help them.
Right on. Well, that's great. So many people, if they have an injury, that just they use that as an excuse or time just to stay out. So kudos to you for going in and being in the atmosphere and helping out how you can. So that's great.
Well, I'm just I'm still a coach. I obviously am not a qualified coach, but I know how the moves are supposed to be done, and I think it helps the guys coming up.
Absolutely.
It's just the little things that really make quite a difference in jiu-jitsu.
I'll tell you what, you have all my respect for getting started later and bringing all that former athletic ability and prowess with you into later in your life. So great job. And before we close, anybody you want to do a shout out to, Jerry?
Ty and Jennifer.
Ty and Jennifer. Okay, fantastic. Well, much respect and long life ahead of you, sir.
Bless you.
Okay, next up is Johnny Judd. So welcome, Johnny.
Hi, how you doing, Marty?
Doing well, sir. Nice to talk to you. So if you would, just tell us how old you are and how long you've been training.
Yeah, my name is Johnny Jed. I'm 64 and a half years old. I'll be 65 in January. And I've been training jiu-jitsu for a little over 2 years. I just took the blue belt test last March. And let's see. Before that, I was been training in combat Hapkido for several years, and got interested in jiu-jitsu through there.
Nice. And you started martial arts way back.
Yes, I was like 20 or 21 back in 1971 when I first started martial arts, and did that for several years, and then joined the Army. It never was really consistent with it until after I got through with the Army 34 years later.
Wow. Well, thank you for your service, by the way.
You're welcome.
I was in the Army as well.
Oh, you were? Good.
So congratulations on your blue belt.
Thank you.
And where do you train?
I train at Olson's Martial Arts in Johnson City. Really great studio, great bunch of people.
Great, shout out to them. And who's your primary instructor?
My instructor is Keith Olson there. He's just a really super instructor and a super human being. I really like him. Even though he's much younger than me. I think he's about 25. I learn from him every day, not just jiu-jitsu, but how to be a good person and how to be a good instructor. Deal with people.
That's great.
He's great with kids and people of all ages.
Really wonderful. So what inspired you to get started in jiu-jitsu later in life?
Well, I had to keep some kind of activity, and I liked Hapkido. I started trying back after I retired from the Army. I started back at a hard style Taekwondo, and that was too rough on me. My knees couldn't handle it anymore, and I got interested in Hapkido, a softer style that was something that I could do throughout the rest of my life. And it has a ground survival component to it that you can take, and it's basically some positional escapes and surviving. It's just kind of basic jiu-jitsu, and I thought, boy, this stuff is fun. So I don't want the watered down version. I want to.
So you got a taste of it.
I want to see what the real jiu-jitsu is like. So.
All right. Yeah, I know there's a lot of things that can translate from Hapkido, even in the standing with the wrist locks and the joint locks and the arm locks, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, our curriculum in jiu-jitsu, I kept saying, well, we did the same thing in Hapkido. This is, Hapkido is just plain pure self-defense. So many of the things are just straight across the board.
Nice to transition from one to the Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So what's been the best part about your training so far in jiu-jitsu?
I think absolutely the best part is just the people. In the long time that I've been going to martial arts seminars and stuff, and so many seminars you go and people are kind of standoffish and especially the higher ranks and stuff. You have to go up to them and introduce yourself and show proper respect and stuff. And in jiu-jitsu, it seems like it's just flip-flopped. Like Master Sauer he enters a room and he comes right over to you and introduces himself, and that's just the way it is seems like every black belt that I've met in jiu-jitsu has just been high-quality people. They got their polarity different. It's really great. It just makes you want to be like them,
Yeah, and that's a great way to say it. When you have role models like that you can easily look up to, you just naturally want to be like them.
Yeah.
So it's great. I agree. Jiu-jitsu has been such a great place as far as finding incredible people. So what's been the biggest challenge for you starting out a little later in life?
I think the older folks don't heal so fast anymore. So that was a little bit. It was challenging for me to find the right throttle. How to go hard enough but not too hard. And so I had a few injuries in the beginning that set me back, just by straining and fighting and stuff. So learning to relax and enjoy the journey and keeping it playful, finding a new definition of winning, that you win when both of you learn and have fun. So
that's great. It's a beautiful way to put it. I really like that. And I also like the expression you use, finding the right throttle.
Yeah.
Something I've certainly wrestled with a bit myself, and still learning every day on that one.
Yeah.
So, well, anybody that you would like to shout out to before we close?
Yeah, my lead coach and mentor, Mike Horahan. I love him. He's a role model as well, and going down to see him tomorrow. So
fantastic. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing, and much respect, and hope you have a long, healthy life, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Marty. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and I just want to say a sincere thank you to each one of those gentlemen for sharing a little glimpse into their lives. I know I, for one, am inspired and motivated by hearing their story, knowing that they're on the mat, and knowing that they started later in life and are doing very, very well. So, again, truly inspirational. Okay, next I'd like to share some words from a website done by Kane Prevost, and it's www.kaneprevost.com. kaneprevost.com. It's a lot of great blog articles on this site, and the site is called Posture, Pressure, Possibilities, Applying the Principle of Simplicity to the Art of Jiu-Jitsu. And this is called The Gift of Age. 43 is not old, not in most everyday situations I find myself in. I can walk, talk, think, and move around this world every bit as good as I did in my 20s. In some areas of my life, though, 43 is old. In the realm of athletics, I can't think of many sports where 43 isn't over the hill. BJJ really is no exception. I hear all the time, quote, age is just a number, unquote. Well, that's true, but we have to acknowledge that things are different at 43 than they were at 23. Doesn't mean I can't be competitive or roll very well with young guys. I still can, thankfully. To say that nothing has to change as you age is the same mistake as saying that everything changes. You have to acknowledge the truth of what is and deal with it. Gas tank. If I were to use cars as an analogy, I have a smaller gas tank than I did when I was 23. Not only is my tank smaller, but it takes longer to fill it back up. My top end speed is a bit slower. Not much, but I don't win some scrambles that I used to be able to win easily. I find that I have to acknowledge these things in order to be able to be competitive at my age. Young guys, even those in mediocre condition, just have a larger tank. They also recover really fast when they gas out. They can actually recover mid-roll if the action slows enough. I can't do that anymore. I have to really conserve my gas and work on improving my mileage. If I run out of gas, I'm done. There is no recovery. I have to pack it in for the roll. Breathe. One new thing I do now when I roll is check my breathing. Usually a couple of minutes into a roll, I purposely check my breathing against my partner's. If I'm breathing heavier, I'm in trouble. Doesn't matter what the position. I have to immediately put myself in a position where I can conserve energy and let my breathing catch up. I have to prioritize this as much as I prioritize position and posture. In fact, I'll give up position at times to get to a spot where I can recover my breathing if I need to. Strength. I don't use a lot of strength anymore. If I find myself straining to apply a sub or escape, I'll just bail on it. Not because I'm lazy, but because I don't have the ability to recover from that level of energy exertion that I used to have. Escapes that take huge bursts of energy aren't going to happen. I don't have the energy reserves to scramble effectively after that level of energy loss. Same goes with submissions. If the triangle choke isn't going on, I won't bear down with great force anymore. If I fatigue my legs trying to put on a choke, I won't have anything left if it doesn't work. Just can't do it. Speed. I don't initiate scrambles anymore. I tend not to win those. If we are both moving fast for position, I feel like my body is going in slow motion. My brain is telling it to move fast, but it's not responding like it used to. It's a strange feeling when you are used to your body moving at a certain speed and it just doesn't anymore. How is all this a gift? I'll tell you. It has improved my game tremendously. I'm a better grappler today because of my age-related restrictions. I tell myself all the time now, quote, it's okay, just rely on your jiu-jitsu, unquote. It's a profound experience for me, a spiritual experience of sorts. I surrender to jiu-jitsu and let it take care of the situation. I no longer have to push jiu-jitsu out of the way and use strength, or speed, or force of will. Those things don't work like they used to. All I have left is jiu-jitsu. In the end, I'm left with a greater appreciation for the art that I love. Over and over again, I'm faced with a younger, stronger, heavier, more athletic partner, and all I have to bring to the table is jiu-jitsu. I trust it to take care of me. Over and over again, I'm amazed at how well it does. It doesn't get me more taps or make me more dominant. I lose some battles that I used to win. Thankfully, though, my understanding and improvement in jiu-jitsu is outpacing my decline in physical attributes. I do anticipate that there will be a day when that will no longer be true. When that day comes, I'll be even more grateful for this art. It'll be all I have, but it will be plenty. I really like that a lot. Okay, time now for our product giveaway, and this is from Old Man Jiu-Jitsu. Ed Solis, who you heard from just a little bit ago, is going to give someone a Old Man Jiu-Jitsu product, and it will either be a hat or a t-shirt, to be determined later. Okay, and whoever answers the following questions correctly and the fastest will be the winner of that product. So here are the questions, and they're all pertaining to Grandmaster Helio Gracie. First question: what year and date was Grandmaster Helio born? Number 2, how many kids total did Grandmaster Helio father? And 3, how old was he when he taught his first jiu-jitsu lesson? So those are the questions. Email us at GracieJujitsuRocks@gmail.com. Okay, moving on. I'd like to play a clip of a video by Henner and Hiron Gracie. And that video is called Jiu-Jitsu Over 40, 5 Rules to Roll Till 95. So let's check that out now. And after that, we'll have the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment.
You guys, the day will come for all of us. And what's crazy is that above everything else, there was one example that sets the standard. And that's rule number 5, follow the leader. Grandmaster Helio Gracie, training till he was 95 years old. And when he was 95, he was not sweeping, submitting, smashing, and passing anybody. At 95, he would say, you, come here. A little bit heavier, strong guy, come here with a smile. Lay down, go, attack. He would have you don't translate that. Attack. And you would mount on top and you'd be attacking. He'd be like this. Defending from your mount. Mount attacks. You would just defend. 1 minute later, he said, okay, get off. And in his mind, he won.
Correct.
He won.
Yeah.
He just submitted that person with a flying triangle in his mind.
Yeah.
Well, no, why?
Well, not in his mind. He actually did for real.
He actually did for real.
Because he is 90 years old.
Yes.
And that person's 37, and they're 80 pounds heavier.
Yes.
So they're like a rainbow belt or like a silver gold belt compared to his red belt.
Yes.
They're way beyond.
They're way beyond. And athleticism and age advantage,
So
the guy
he
is
did win.
skyrocketing. So in his mind, he did amazing.
In our minds.
Imagine if Helio Gracie, at 95 years old, expected a performance from himself that he was capable of delivering when he was 25. Imagine if he expected the 25-year-old Eddie when he was 95. The same delivery, tap the same people, beat up on his sons, choke his grandsons, manage everything, choke everybody, tie both arms, challenge all of Brazil. She actually did, by the way. Front newspaper page, both hands tied, I'll challenge anybody who can beat me, I'll give you 10,000 cruzeiros. Nobody ever shut up for the challenge. Imagine if that Helio expected to be around when he was 95, that same delivery, that same effect, and that same smashing capability. Would he still be training? No!
Now, my question for you and for you is, at what point in Helio's life did he begin to invest in the technique and the tools and the understanding that he needed to have to be able to say, hey, you, 25-year-old, come mount me.
Right.
When did he start training that? When did he start?
I don't know.
the first day he stepped on the mat.
With the student.
Correct. The first day he ever walked on the mat, he already started, number one, putting what first? Survival.
Yes.
And by putting survival first, he didn't put his prime when he was fighting professionally first. He put the beginning, young teenager learning to survive and not get beat up. He put, as an instructor, defending his art against all challengers. And then he put, once he was done fighting and just retired, being on the mat, sharing his insights.
Boom.
He put that final chapter of his life and the beginning chapter before the middle chapter. But then again, not really, because even the middle chapter is survival. So because survival is his core,
yes,
he was able to do jiu-jitsu from 0 to 100. And you know what's wild is that this is what you have to do. You have to make jiu-jitsu your core. And when I say jiu-jitsu, I mean survival, because jiu-jitsu is survival.
That's what's up.
Jiu-jitsu is not offense, it's not attack, it's not submissions, it's survival. So putting jiu-jitsu first, which means survival first, you are going to be much more set up to train for the rest of your life. And you're going to avoid what? Jiu-jitsu tapping you out.
Yes.
Because jiu-jitsu, the way that most people see it, is not as an art of survival.
Yes.
It's go forward, get an arm lock, get a choke.
Yeah, UFC.
So that type of jiu-jitsu will end up tapping you out, which at the age of 37, 48, 56, you're going to step off the mat because you lost track of what jiu-jitsu really is.
And you're losing to yourself.
And 10 times worse than losing to Joe when I spar right now in 10 minutes.
Young buck who came up and is really good.
Correct. Is me losing to myself. I beat myself up, and because of me, I'm not going to be appreciating jiu-jitsu when I'm 87 years old with my grandchildren.
It's the ultimate loss. It's the ultimate tap out. You don't train anymore. You rob yourself of jiu-jitsu. You guys, the day will come for every one of you, if it hasn't already, that you will need to adopt this philosophy if you plan on following the leader and training till you're 95. And trust me, you want to train when you're 95. Even those of you out there who don't train yet, but have never done jiu-jitsu, you want to be training jiu-jitsu when you're 95.
You want to be walking around the mat just giving your advice to all the 34-year-olds and 22-year-olds.
Imagine the grandkids.
Okay, great video there by Henner and Hiron Gracie. And if you're wondering what they were referring to with the when they said the rainbow belt or silver belts, they were referring to what's called the Boyd belts. And I will be posting a clip about that from the video on the next episode. I will have a link to the video on YouTube in the show notes, so if you'd like, you can go ahead and check that video out. It's really good. On the next episode, the second half of this theme, we will hear from a few more older jiu-jitsu practitioners, as well as hear from a few black belts that have been practicing the art many years, but are starting to get a little further on in life as well. We'll talk to them about what it's like and their journey. All right, I want to say a very sincere thank you to all those that contributed and participated in this episode. Great insight, great information. And we'll continue this conversation in part 2 of this theme in the next episode. So look for that soon. And stay tuned now for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. Okay, time for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. Let's start with a quote. When I was young, I despised old people. I was provincial and narrow-minded. It's the reason I stayed stupid so long. If you only get involved with young people, you don't learn anything about the world. Edmund White. Pretty good quote. And if you're a young person listening to this, I just want to challenge you to be aware. Be aware of those around you. And if you have older jiu-jitsu practitioners where you train, try thinking about what it would be like to be in their shoes. It takes a lot of courage to step on the mat at an older age. So really put yourself in their shoes and consider what it may be like for them. And I want to encourage you to be nice, polite, and friendly to them. If you're an older person listening to this and you are into jiu-jitsu, I salute you. I truly salute you. My hat's off to you. You're doing it. No matter what level, what form it takes, or whatever the specifics of your situation, your training, you're doing it. So you're awesome. Stay with it and keep on trucking. And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. As always, I really appreciate you listening. Always enjoy your feedback. You can leave feedback by going to the website at www.graciejujitsurocks.com. If you haven't already, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and if you get a moment, go to iTunes and subscribe, as well as rate the show. You can also leave a comment there as well. Stay tuned for the second part of this episode coming up very soon. And until next time, this is Marty Josie, and I'll see you on the mat.